I would say preaching to convert on this one. My position's always been, this is an area where people should take advice. I think it's also worth remembering that whilst this offering isn't here yet, and actually you're reading our initial industry response to it, there was a lot of people who just don't think that this one pension will ever actually come to fruition. Take the pensions dashboard, we're 4 years down the line and that hasn't appeared yet. So, will the one pension pot appear? It is very early days. I always say at the end of the day, your option to consolidate is available now. And that is a large proportion of a role a financial advisor takes for people is to sit and talk to them about consolidation of their pension planning.
And again, even on the flip side of that is if you're looking at a consolidation of your pension plan, is just because you picked that pension provider and you like that pension provider doesn't mean that's the best pension provider for you. And by allowing people to go down this one pot pension, you're almost running the risk of negating that expertise, that understanding that the financial advisors have and bring to the table to sit down and actually look at a person's finances and say, actually, I know you want to go into this pension pot, but really we think this one that your employer's offering is much better for you, and go that sort of route.
And there's a lot of niche examples as well. I mean, if you take things like an NHS worker, I sat with a client the other day. They've got an NHS pension. They've got the ability to pay more in, and they were sat there talking about topping up an old personal pension that they had. When actually the conversation about buying things like added years in the NHS pension, there's so much more to consider a lot of the time. So I think it's an area that's definitely worth revisiting. I personally think with pension planning, it's a topic that you should probably look at once a year, and I think the reason behind that is because the rules keep changing so quickly. Staying on the vein of pensions and sort of following on from the one pot concept, I personally think the value for the audience in one of these conversations is looking back at what have been the significant changes this year. If we're sort of on pensions as a topic, it's a sort of natural place to cover this off, but the bigger changes came about in March. So going back to March 23, we saw the increase of the annual allowance. So the increase of the annual allowance, effectively, people up until this tax year were able to pay £40,000 a year into a pension. Now that's the headline rate. There's a lot of actually underlying quirks to that and special rules, but the headline rate was £40,000. In March it went up to £60,000. It was totally unexpected. It's probably one of the biggest tax giveaways that we've got. It cost them a fortune. It cost the government a fortune. But I always say to people, we've got auto enrolment. The state pension isn't a lot of money. The government need people to save for their own retirement, so they're motivated to support pension planning. Having a £60,000 a year annual allowance now, in layman's terms, if you're operating a limited company, you've got excess profits. If you pay £60,000 into a pension and your corporation tax rate is 25%, you've got a £15,000 corporation tax saving in 1 year by making a contribution to a pension. Not only is that attractive, but I think when you break down the actual fundamentals of that, when we talk about things like other ways to mitigate corporation tax and R&D and investment allowance and these sort of topics, or actually going out and buying something, capital expenditure, a lot of the time you're buying a depreciating asset. Now hopefully with your pension you're buying a rising asset, so not only are you putting it into something that should go up in value and get the corporation tax benefits, but you're pulling it out into your name. You're moving it from the company, you're ring fencing some of that security. A lot of business owners, their business is my pension, we hear that time and time again, and I never disagree with that. I mean, ultimately, people who grow a company, they're the best person to look after their own finances, but actually, it's never a bad thing to de-risk yourself. If you're in a position, I would say, if you've got the position that you've got the profits, you've got the corporation tax exposure, and you've got the allowances there to do it, taking some money off the table by utilising a pension scheme, it's ultimately just building a war chest for you down the line. I actually think when you really boil back what a pension is, because I think it's one of those terms that people, there's a lot of people who still probably carry years of history and are concerned about pensions. But actually, when you boil back what it is, for a company, for a limited limited company is just a fantastic way to extract profits,
it's
corporation
really,
tax efficiently.
Yeah, massively. And then also as well, you've got that future benefit as well.
Yeah.
You're looking at a way ready for later life as well. If you're not careful, the trap you can fall in is, I'll just beaver away, work away, and I'll pay my taxes, pay my rates and stuff like that, but actually not think, well, what happens in 10, 15 years time when I actually want to retire, when I want to step away from the business, have I actually put something aside? With having £60,000 a year allowance, and then obviously it's a huge amount, and obviously you've got your three, going back 3 tax years as well, backfilling as well if you've not done those years as well, which is quite good. But
if you have a particularly good year in trade, But I mean, headline now, when you actually look at it, you've potentially got a position where an individual could have up to £180,000 that they can pay into a pension in one tax year. You take that further, if you've got more than one director, if you're a family-run business, for example, a husband and wife, or however that's made up, that's £280,000 threshold, £360,000 worth of potential pension contributions. It's really big numbers now. Again, you've got to be in the position to be able to do that. But I just think the purpose in these conversations is knowing those rules are out there. You don't have to be, a pensions convert to have a pension. Fundamentally, I think a lot of the time these it's tax driven, and it's looking at something. I mean, we've focused a lot on the business aspect of there, and this personal reasons, while individuals and employees would take advantage of them. But I think just for the context of that conversation for a business, it's a really good place to be in.